Hello and welcome to the Ecom Sales Tax Podcast. My name is Ryan Johnson, and again, I've got Paul Johnson with me today. Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm grateful to be here. Grateful to talk today about the old marketplace facilitator loss. Oh, spoiler alert. Sorry.
Spoiler. Oh my goodness. Can't even get into the segue to the question.
So that's good.
Listen, this never happens with Dan. Come on, man.
Glad to be a little bit different than Dan. But I love Dan.
It's great to have a lot of different personalities from Pfizer Johnson on with me. It's a great variety. I think our loyal listeners will enjoy it. Today's question, I get this question on webinars. I get this question in email, on phone calls. I mean, I think I talk about this the most is marketplace facilitator laws, and kind of what they are, and should they be getting registered? Because almost every state, if not all, have some sort of marketplace facilitator laws. And should I get registered? I mean, that's the question I get the most. And I hope, Paul, you dealing with it all the time could shed some light and clear the confusion for all the listeners today.
Definitely. It's a great question. It's a hot topic right now, especially with the new legislation that's recently passed over the last year or two. And in some of the states that have established marketplace facilitator laws, almost every state now has marketplace facilitator laws in place that deals specifically with the facilitators, with the sellers. What role do you play in your business, and how is it impacted in those various states? It's a common issue right now, but as most things in the sales tax world, it depends on the state and what that state indicates. So if you take a look at a state like California, they've specifically indicated in their legislation that if you're a marketplace seller who only sells through a marketplace facilitator who is definitely collecting and remitting the tax on your behalf, then there's no need to register in that state. And there are several states now who have jumped on board and who've indicated that specifically. Some states have indicated that you are able to some states have indicated that you are still required to file a return, report the sales, report that they're non-taxable. But some of the states specifically have indicated that you don't have a requirement to register, to report the sales, to report anything as a result of the marketplace facilitator. But not every marketplace facilitator is the same, meaning you can have marketplace facilitators like Etsy, who, if you sell on their platform, they're automatically going to collect and remit the tax on behalf of all your sales, regardless of where they're shipped to. They will collect the tax if it's due and remit it on your behalf. But if you were to sell on a platform like Amazon, then Amazon will, they have the option, you have the option as the seller of collecting the tax in every state. But right now, there's 39 or 40 total states that they're collecting and remitting directly to the state on your behalf. So they don't give you the option of not collecting the tax. They don't give you the option of only collecting a certain percentage of the tax. As a marketplace facilitator, they've entered into an agreement with the state to collect the total tax on all transactions that are sold and shipped to that state. They collect the tax and they remit it on behalf of all sellers who sell through their platform. So there's 46 states, including DC. And so if you have 39 or 40 states where Amazon is doing that, you only have a handful of states left. If you have nexus in those states that you have a requirement to collect and remit tax to.
I can see why it would be really confusing to people as to whether or not they should get registered.
Yeah.
Because I know, like in the state of Washington, they have that law where in Amazon will even collect and remit to the state of Washington.
Right.
But you still have the responsibility for if you have physical nexus within Washington or Nexus period, that you
Yeah.
still have to be registered, and you still are responsible for the business and occupation tax.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to file, and then
Right.
you have to, record the sales and the sales tax remitted on your behalf by
Yeah.
all these marketplace facilitators.
Yep. And it doesn't matter if you got physical or economic. I mean, you have Nexus, you have a requirement in Washington. You're responsible for the business and occupation of the excise tax, similar to kind of like Ohio's commercial activity tax or Texas franchise tax now. I mean, more states are coming out with these additional taxes as a result of remote sellers doing business. I mean, the states are hungry. They want to get the tax, as much tax as they possibly can, and as quickly and as soon as they can. So it's just something to be aware of and to be alerted to. But I would also caution sellers, as we've experienced in our line of business. Some sellers, they don't have an understanding, or they're not aware of what tax is being collected and remitted on their behalf. Or if the tax is being remitted on their behalf, they take this assumption that the tax is being remitted, but they have no records or accounting being done to reflect that. And so I just fear and cringe at the fact that down the road under audit, the state's going to come in and they're going to impose a tax on all those transactions, or they're going to indicate the tax was collected, not remitted. And unless you can verify that it was remitted, I would hate to see sellers get stuck with that tax plus penalty and interest, because they assume that it was remitted on their behalf, but they don't have any reports, they don't have any accounting, they don't have anything to reflect, to support the tax being remitted on their behalf.
Yeah, that could be a serious problem. And it is, if you do operate under the assumption that every state has these marketplace facilitatory laws, and that the marketplace is remitting the tax on your behalf, really got to make sure that's happening.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as a follow-up, I know that the states are always trying to tweak their laws, impose new sales tax laws to make it easier for everybody, right? Does this really make it easier for sellers? Is this one that actually doesn't make it easier?
Not necessarily easier. I mean, tax is always going to be complicated. It's going to be difficult for sellers. But you have states like Texas and states like Alabama who have established these remote seller legislation rules, and that indicate, hey, you don't have to collect or charge, all these local taxes. So if you're trying to manage tax rates on your own without a third party, or an additional software or shopping cart that's sophisticated enough, then it makes it easier, because now you're not so worried about where in Texas is this product being shipped to. If it's over here, it's 6 1/4. If it's over there, it's 7 1/4. Over here, it's 8 1/4. Now it's just a flat rate. In Alabama, you have all the local jurisdictions. Oh, there's probably 60 or 70 local jurisdictions in Alabama. Don't quote me on that, but not only do you have to worry about the varying tax rates, but you also have to worry about who administers that tax. So if I collect it, where does it go? Who does it go to? The state? Does it go to this local? Does it go to this local? So by administering or passing this legislation that indicates you just charge a flat rate and it's all administered by the state, then that's spectacular for the seller. Makes life a lot easier. But from a tax rate perspective, you can see how that would make it easier, unless you have a third party that's administering those tax rates and keeping those up for you, that's integrated with your shopping cart or what have you. So you're not having to worry about that. So you still have the complexities of remittance, collection, sales tax, resale certificates, so on and so forth. So it's still complicated and robust, but they're trying to introduce some elements of simplicity, if you will.
Because if you are a seller that's selling on multiple platforms, or you've got your own website, or you got a brick and mortar store, I just feel like it makes it a little more complicated for that kind of seller.
Yeah, right.
like my example for Washington. I mean, you got marketplace facilitators you're selling on, that's remitting the tax on your behalf, but you're still collecting your tax from your website, from your market, from your store. It,
Yep, it's
trying to
tricky.
make it easy,
It's tricky.
but really it complicates it for the larger sellers, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
There are a number of sellers who want to sell on multiple platforms just to try and capture that
right.
kind of market share, if you will, right? But it brings on a new level of complexity as far as what rates to charge and who's remitting that tax to. Am I remitting that tax? Are they remitting that tax? So unless you have some proper accounting in place, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare trying to jostle, trying to figure it out.
And that's where you and your team comes in, bro.
That's right. That's right. That's where we'll help you out.
Yeah, that's kind of our specialty, really. I mean, we take the complicated accounts and we make it less complicated, and take it over for you. So if this is something that you are experiencing and you need help with, this is where you need to go and
Definitely
jump on a call with us, and we
I was
can
just gonna say we're not a software company like Taxstar, like Avalara, and these others that are out there. But we work with these third parties to help facilitate, to ensure that all that's being collected, all that's being remitted. As a consulting arm, we have a lot of leverage and have a lot of experience and knowledge as to know how best and what's good fit for you and your company. So whether we send you to Shopify or Sovos or Taxstar or Avalara, I mean, there's hundreds out there. We can help you guys in determining which one to use and why, the pros and cons of them all.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul, and hope to see you on another one.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.